Hello, hello! Following my low tier commentary, I decided to move on to battleships after having done the Furtaka and Cleveland commentary. And I decided to choose the Kongo since it's one of the ships I already had thanks to the ARP thing. Oh god, these noises, or these voices even. The Kongo is honestly an insane battleship for T5. The range it has is insane. Like, you can, if you shoot broadside like this guy does, at any range, there's always the risk of someone who knows how to aim might punish you. And that's a good way to basically start this vid, I guess. That's a Königsberg, another T5 ship, a cruiser in this case. He's completely taken out of the game. He's got 1/4 of his HP left. The range on this ship is insane. The Kongo has 21.2 kilometer range. It even has a spotting plane, but I never use it, or almost never, because honestly, with this range in T5 you outrange everything else already. You will rarely, if ever, actually use your spotting plane, and if you do, it's mostly to see what's on the other side of some cliff or something similar. The problem is that a lot of people who get the Kongo think that, well, honestly, a lot of people who play a lot of battleships think that because the Kongo has range, it means it must be played at this range. But the fact is, this ship actually has amazing firing angles. Now, you might see it at times when I close the distance with someone, I'm able to angle my guns forward and bring my full broadside to bear, while exposing very little actual broadside for the enemy to shoot at. At this moment, I'm by the way, I'm weaving left and right all the time. The Kongo is quite fast and pretty nimble, honestly, for a battleship, and I use that to my advantage so that the people firing from this much range will have issues hitting me. And it's something you should do, honestly. I mean, why give them a ship that's sailing in a straight line is always going to be incredibly easy to hit. So obviously you want to avoid giving them that easy shot. So wiggle your tail a bit, wiggle your ship around. Anyway, oh, this guy actually for a second I sailed in a straight line and you saw how close he got to actually hitting me. That's the risk, but whatever, I'm taking it. Anyway, if you look at my ship, you can see how angled I am. I'm constantly closing the distance to this Königsberg, while at the same time being able to shoot at him. I've also focused target the planes, because the Kongo actually has quite decent anti-air for a T5 ship. It's not amazing, but it's quite decent. If they stay in your anti-air range for too long, they will start dropping. So I've obviously focus fired the torpedo bombers, since they are without a doubt the biggest threat. Now it's his fighters mostly shooting them down, not me. Now I choose to focus on the cruisers as much as I can as I close the distance, because battleships do massive citadel damage to cruisers, especially at low tier. When a citadel is basically half their HP, it's worth going for it, as I said. Oh, double citadel. Well, that's another cruiser I completely demolished. I didn't get the kill, but that's another T5 cruiser that has been completely obliterated me, and I'm still just closing the distance. You can see all the other teams, all the other ships on my team, they're sitting back, and I see no reason to do that, because the carriers already sent their torpedo planes, and they only have one real destroyer, so I doubt I will be one shot by the destroyer. Okay, that was a bit RNG. This Wyoming's literally sitting still giving me broadside. Something you should never do, by the way. There's no reason to give this much broadside. And I only did 3k damage. Of course, that's something you also need to get used to when playing battleships. Dispersion. It can be very random at time. Every ship has it, but it feels the most punishing for battleships because of the very long reload. So it can feel frustrating to wait 30 seconds only to have your shots go all over the place, like there. I'm literally shooting at a guy barely moving from 7 kilometers. I only hit 2 shells, even though my crosshair was right in the middle of him. It can get frustrating, but on the other hand, to compensate, you sometimes get that perfect tight spread, which allows you to completely demolish other ships, like I did to the Königsberg. That's something you just need to get used to. As long as your aim is good, it averages out to really good average damage. Just get used to the fact that sometimes RNG will screw with you, sometimes RNG will reward you. Like in this case. Citadel, as I should have gotten a lot earlier, but whatever, I finally got a kill. Already 4 citadels in this game. The scoreboard at the top says I've done 64,000 damage, which is 10k more than my own HP, so I feel like I've already done a significant contribution to this game. Now my team, as usual, is sitting very far back. They're basically... this is why the zone mode was pretty much removed from high tier, because high tier ships did the exact same thing all these guys on my team are doing. They're hiding outside the cap, afraid to actually move in. Obviously, I'm not gonna be doing any of that. I'm gonna continue pushing in. I'm gonna go hunt their carriers. I have the torpedo plane focused as my target, and I'm turning towards it. That's very important. You always turn towards torpedo planes. I mean, there are exceptions. If you're sailing pretty much away from a torpedo plane, you can turn yourself straight away from him and focus fire him, because that forces the planes to spend a much longer time in your anti-air if they want to get the broadside hit. So if you got good anti-air, you can actually shoot down the entire squad while they attempt to get that sideways drop. But in this case, the best thing is obviously to turn to get towards him. Here I'm being a bit greedy because I want to shoot with all my guns, so I stopped turning for a second just to shoot this volley, and now I turn hard right. I landed 7 hits, I did a good chunk of damage, and because of my fast turn, I still managed to avoid his drop. I instantly repair. Usually I tell you, or a golden rule for battleships is never use repair for just one fire. But there are of course exceptions. In this case there was no one firing at me, there were no additional bomb planes coming, so I could risk having my 80-second cooldown on my repair. The reason you should never use your repair on one fire is if you take an additional fire afterwards, or 2 or 3 of them, then you'll be unable to repair and you'll just basically have to sit there and watch as your HP slowly drains away. So that's why you only use your repair on multiple fires. But the exception is here. There was nothing shooting at me, I was in complete safety. There are other similar situations, like if you're about to get into cover, then you can use your repair and such. But in general, just avoid doing it. Take it as a rule of thumb. Always look at you can see the amount of fires you have at the bottom left on the ship icon. On the bottom left, your HP, there it shows how many fires you got on you. If you only got 1, it's not really a big deal. With the perks and the modules and such, the actual damage it deals isn't that much, and most importantly of all, it's considered light damage. All flooding and fire is considered light damage, which means your repair consumable will heal all of it back. You get 100% heal efficiency out of any sort of light damage. So eating a fire and saving your repair in case you get something worse isn't a big deal, because you can just hit your heal consumable and get all the HP back in the end anyway. So you're just basically you're playing it safe, so to say. Once again, focus firing the torpedo bombers, turning towards him, managed to shoot them down, managed to shoot, focus firing the last bomb squad. As you can see, these are T5 bombers, and I'm using a T5 ship. I don't have advanced firing training. I think I have basic firing training. That's the only AA buffing captain perk I have. Once again, I use the repair instantly because I know there's not going to be any additional fire damage coming my way in a while. But as you can see, for a battleship, this AA is actually quite nice. The Kongo is a very, very strong pusher. First of all, once again, you can see the angle. I'm able to shoot with all my guns, and you see how steeply my ship is angled. There are actually few battleships that can angle this well, which makes the ship an exceptionally good offensive battleship. You can angle yourself very well, you're fast, you got fairly good maneuverability, and you got decent anti-air for your tier. So overall, this ship is just excellent at pushing and hunting down other ships. The problem is, because of the large range it has, people tend to play it as a pure sniper, even though it's actually probably the best defensive ship at T5. Like, I have a hard time finding anything else like Murmansk and Omaha and such. Sure, they are very good ships, but they're also floating citadels. If someone knows how to shoot, they can just destroy you. Doing the same thing to a Kongo, coming at you at an extreme angle, is actually quite hard. And simply torping or using planes to destroy one isn't as easy either, as I've shown you multiple times here. Of course, the drops weren't necessarily the best ones from these carriers, but you can see how quickly you dispatch of the planes that try to get those perfect drops on you. Anyway, I destroyed one of the carriers. Now, the Langley was down south, so I'm actually turning my guns around. So I'm turning the side of my guns to the other side. This is something basically pre-planning, something you should get used to on a battleship. The reason I'm turning my guns around is that I know he will be on my right side, and I want to be able to turn left into the actual cap and towards the last remaining ships, while being able to shoot at Langley at the same time. If I had kept my guns on my left side, I would basically have to hug the right hand side wall to be able to shoot him, and I'd have nowhere to turn, nowhere to maneuver. It would ultimately lead me to an awkward situation or awkward position, which would either leave me without room to maneuver in case of potential torpedo bombers, or push me further away from the last enemy ships, which is something I don't want, since it's actually a 4 versus 5. This is a very close game. Here comes the torpedo bombers. I don't know, are they going for me? They might not want to go for me because I have this Königsberg, this cruiser right next to me. So my guess is he's going to go for one of the battleships in the middle. Of course, I'm still going to focus fire him and help them out, because why not? I managed to shoot down one. This is a lower tier lower. This is T4 plane, since this is Langley, not the Bogue like the last ship was. So obviously these planes will drop significantly faster. Still managed to get a good drop off, it seems, and that Wyoming ate quite a few torps. Damn. But now he is basically flying over us all. Huh. Only one plane. I'm a bit surprised. No, there we go. 2, 3. That's the thing, AA is a bit RNG as well, or it's technically completely RNG, but usually it adds up in the end as an average. A bit like your Dispersion. AA can vary a lot in its effectiveness, which is a bit of a stupid mechanic in my opinion, but hey, that's how it goes. Now on the Langley, you can see where his smokestacks is. Okay, I already know that was shot too far ahead. You saw where his smokestacks were? They are actually in the back of his ship, and the citadel is technically the boiler rooms on carriers. The boiler rooms, so that's where you want to hit, right below those 2 smokestacks. That's where his citadel is. So the fact that he was going so slowly and slowed down made all my volley land far too far in the front, and I actually got no citadel hits and no citadel damage. Honestly, I might as well be using HE here. Not just for the fire, but because HE would pen this paper armor easily. Okay, I'm overpenning him pretty hard, it seems, because that felt like I was right on the citadel to me, but obviously it's not. Anyway, there's no point even focusing on him anymore. He is clearly dead. Now, my first hope was to be able to make it on the left hand side of this island, but nope. I don't think this ship has nowhere near a tight enough turning circle to be able to make it on the left hand side. So I dropped my speed to less than half, and now I'm speeding up again. If you didn't know, your ship has, on average, almost every ship has the tightest turning circle when you're moving at half speed. So as you can see, my speed is exactly at half speed. So this is the tightest turning circle I can get on this ship without sacrificing too much speed. Of course, I think you can get it slightly tighter if you go 1/4 of speed, but then you sacrifice so much speed in the process that it doesn't really save you that much time in the end. But half speed is usually the optimal place if you want to make these tight turns while still keeping some speed and some momentum. Because killing all speed on a battleship is a bit iffy, because it usually takes you a while to get going again, and you should really almost never sit still on a battleship. It's just not a good idea. Anyway, I shoot my front guns at the Kongo. Back guns I save for this Königsberg, who's low HP. He obviously thinks he saw me shoot at the Kongo, so now he's picking a fight, but that's a stupid move since I still had my back guns who were still rotating. Now, once again, I'm gonna commit my guns to the other side. I could probably kill him faster if I kept my angle the other way and kept my guns facing to the left, but I don't want to, because there's only 5 minutes left and there's a Grammy somewhere in the cap, and we need to kill the Grammy to win, otherwise this will end in a draw, since this is zone mode. So to make sure that I'm still heading in towards the remaining battle, the remaining ships, I sacrifice some damage while waiting for my turrets to turn, just so I can stay relevant and still help hunt down the last ship without the time running out. That's something you need to do a lot on a battleship, is plan for the future. Plan your own moves. Where will you end up after this ship has died? Not just how do I kill this ship. That's the simple part. But you often see battleships who don't really plan ahead. That's why I don't give broadside anyway. By the way, easy citadel, whereas I'm bouncing most of his shells because I'm angled. Anyway, that's something you see a lot of battleships mistake, is basically they focus on getting their current kill. They tunnel vision so hard on the current kill that after they had the kill, they suddenly look at the minimap and they notice they're completely off on the map. They're miles away from the nearest ship, and especially on the slow American battleships, this is awful. Wow, he just destroyed my turret, and he has 34 HP left. This is something you see often on the American battleships, and they are so slow that once they're really off on the side of the map, they won't have time to be relevant for the rest of the game. Is no one from my team seriously managing to hit this guy? He's literally hugging the border, barely moving. Wow, okay, I guess I have to finish him. This Königsberg could have just switched to HE to secure the kill. There was no reason to stay with AP, considering he just needed consistent damage. Anyway, that's him dead. And I stick to HE, of course, and this is once again I said why I angled myself to the left, so I can keep being relevant. And now I have 3 minutes left to hunt down and kill this Grammy to secure the win for my team. And this is a very important factor when playing a battleship, is always trying to plan ahead. Always try to plan a few steps ahead, because battleships require a lot of pre-planning, and this is something that will help you further up in the line, especially when you get to the slower, huger, higher tier ships, where pretty much everything else can outmaneuver and outspeed you. Then it becomes very important that you always plan ahead. Always look at the situation you will end up in after the current situation has passed. I'm trying to get this our Wyoming here to turn north to box this guy in. One of my front turrets is dead, so I only have 2 guns to rely on, which is a bit unfortunate. Okay, he's dipping behind that cliff. I already start turning my guns. We have 2 minutes left. Yeah, I've moved my crosshair on the left of my ship, and I already start turning my guns on the left side. I'm going by the assumption that by the time I actually get past that island, my turrets will have managed to complete this turn. It's a bit risky considering it is a destroyer and he might be able to torp me, but we have 1 minute 45 left, and I'm hoping, you can see this Kongo on my left. He obviously grew chicken and he slowed down hugely because he was so afraid of the torps. I'm not too worried about them. If I die, I feel that my team should be able to finish the kill in the 1 minute 30 they have left, so whatever. I still believe in my turret traverse rate though. I think I timed it fairly well. I start turning away already, so basically not only does this help me bring my back turrets, speed up the traverse rate on the back turrets, it also makes it easier for me to avoid any potential torpedoes coming that way. Right, my turrets have turned. 1 minute left, and he's dead. He got destroyed. And that was a, honestly, almost full-time Kongo commentary, but in the end it was quite some good money. 4,000 on T5 is quite nice. Almost 2.4k basic speed, 20 plane shutdowns, 4 kills. Didn't quite get the Kraken, but shit happens. Damage wise, about over 150k about. So overall, quite a good Kongo game. Anyway, as usual, after this I will move over to modules, upgrades, and captain perks. Right, I'll start off with modules as usual. Sadly, I don't have the default Kongo, so I actually need to go check it out from over here. Let's find it. Here we go. Upgrade wise, honestly, I'm pretty sure I would go for the hull first. You don't need the range. You already have fantastic range. You don't. Well, this is actually a really good upgrade. The speed upgrade. It's a significant upgrade. 5.1 knots is a huge amount to get from a single engine upgrade. So I think I would probably go for this one, because apparently it buffs your rate of fire, buffs your guns, and it gives you some AA, which you completely lack unless you get it, and it gives you a nice chunk of HP. Oh, and some armor apparently as well. Damn, this is a really good. So I would probably go for the B hull, then I would go for the engine upgrade, and then finally the C hull, and then as the last upgrade I would get the range. Because as I said, you don't need 21 kilometers of range. Seriously, 19.3 is more than enough against anything you'll face at these tiers. If you find yourself needing range, then you're probably playing your Kongo wrong. You're playing it way too passively and sitting way too far back. Anyways, upgrade wise, gun upgrade, of course, you don't want to lose a gun like I managed to do, and even though I had this upgrade. And of course accuracy, considering it's your bread and butter, actually landing those huge shells. And finally I have the damage control system, not because it's specifically good, but because the other two are useless for a battleship. Consumable wise, I highly recommend getting the premium repair. It costs 22k credits, you can just switch it from here. Because the default one has a reload time of 120 seconds, this one has a reload time of 80 seconds. That's 40 seconds of flooding, burning, whatever you might be suffering for. It's really worth it to get this upgrade, or get this better consumable. You don't necessarily need the premium repair, I just use it because money isn't much of an issue. But it's possible, I mean, it's up to you. Depends on how you feel your economy is doing. Captain perks wise, well, on the Kongo specifically, this is pretty pointless since you're seen almost all the time. You're detected 24/7, but I always like getting this on all my ships. It's pretty good when you end up against deities and such. You can tell if where they're moving based on your own being detected, being undetected, and so forth. But this is by far the best captain perk for a battleship, so I would probably get these two honestly, because basic survivability is a flat out 15% a reduction of fire, flooding, and of course the time it takes to repair stuff that's broken, like for example a gun. Second, third traverse, mostly because these others are useless. This one is the most useful of the useless ones, but even this one is terrible because it doesn't add a flat -7%, it multiplies the enemy's fire chance by -7%, so really useless. Stick with the expert marksman as the second trait. Third trait, superintendent, simply for the additional heal. There could be made an argument that vigilance might be okay, but honestly I prefer superintendent for the additional heal. If you find yourself eating a lot of torps, maybe you'll need vigilance, but in general I don't have much of this issue, so I prefer this one. Again, we can argue a bit of a matter of taste here, which one you like. As the fourth one, I would undoubtedly take advanced sparring training, because I think it's it's really the only T4 perk worth getting on a battleship, and it gives you a nice AA buff and it gives you a secondary buff, especially with 0.5.3 approaching. The secondary range buff is actually going to be very good. Anyway, that was my not so short but hopefully sweet Kongo commentary.